right now. Over to you, Sarah.
Hello and welcome, Rebels. I know that a few of you have been tuning in to all of the great outpouring of content that's been coming out on our social channels, on the YouTubes and the Twitters and the Instagrams and the Facebooks. Wherever you're tuning in, give me a hello in the comments. We're going to be reading your comments all night because this is Vision Seeds. What is Vision Seeds? Vision Seeds of all of the different online content that's pouring out of XR and kind of the whole of the internet right now is something a little bit different. This is a space where we are interested in listening to your visions. We're going to be sharing some visions tonight because we kind of want to get the juices rolling, and also because there are some incredible visionaries connected to Extinction Rebellion and out there, maybe inputting at different times, maybe offering their piece when they're ready, and maybe not, they don't necessarily like wear the badge or carry the flag, but we want to hear their visions too. And maybe that's you. Maybe you are a card-carrying, badge-wearing, flag-waving rebel, and you are stirring with some sense of what could come or what needs to come. I want to hear from you. Please write in the comments, say hello, say your name, say where you've come from. Well, I can see your name if you're using a real name on social media, and say what your vision is or what your vision's about. Maybe it's about food, maybe it's about family, maybe it's about the future. Whatever it is, bring it here. There's another reason why this show is a little bit different from some of the other shows that you've been tuning into. Some of the other shows that you've been tuning into are about us saying to you, us, the rebellion, saying to you, hey, have a think about this. Whereas this show is more like, it kind of tries to delve into some of the meta topics out there, some of the taboos, some of the things that maybe coming from the mouth organ of XR, they don't necessarily want to talk about. And maybe it's stuff that you're talking about in your regions, in your subgroups, sub-circles, the different circles all around the world, conversations that keep spinning round and round and round, but you're not seeing represented in the official output, what the Extinction Rebellion is putting out. This is also a space for this tonight, and hopefully every Tuesday, if they let us. And we're also going to be talking about the principles and values of the movement and what happens when people aren't keeping up with those principles and values, these principles and values, which are, you know, truly paradigm shifting to when we hold the principles and values. I keep saying principles and values. I wonder how many of you know them. Check them out. They're on rebellion.earth in the About Us section, the 10 principles and values. You know, everyone knows the 3 demands, but how many of us know the principles and values? I want you to check those out before we get to that section near the end of the show. And the principles and values are so important because they're one of the ways that we continue to be able to move forward. And the piece that we're going to be talking about tonight and every week from here on, inshallah, is how to not get left behind. We don't want anyone to get left behind as this great big boat called civilization is turning to face in the right direction. And so we're going to be talking about those principles and values. What else are we going to be talking about this evening? We're going to be talking about a kind of atmosphere that is in our global village at the moment. We're going to be talking about this way that, I don't know about you, but there's so much going on. There's so much happening in so many different spheres that actually it's kind of tricky to even go out and fetch food and water for ourselves. I know that that's true because of government like lockdowns and like all of the great oppression of the police stay inside that's happening for us all. But also I'm finding that's true even within my own circles, that the fabric of trust in amongst us, in amongst our culture as rebels, is so thin, so worn, that even stepping out, you're scared that you're going to have darts thrown at you. So that's also something we're going to be tuning into tonight. Are you somebody who is holding that trust and making that trust stronger and stronger? Or are you one of those people throwing darts, being like, I don't like that person, and I don't like that person, and I think they're doing the wrong thing over there? So that's also something we're going to be talking about today. All of that is going to be coming through a sense of what we call visioning and visionaries and what it means to have visions. We have some visionaries coming on later. We have people from XR Germany. We have Jules Evans, a writer on the relationships between politics and spirituality. I think that's what he writes about. I hope that's right. And we also have somebody from Tamera, which is an incredible place in Portugal that you're going to hear more about later. And all of these people I think of as visionaries, and that's why we brought them here for you to speak to tonight. And the visionary culture within XR is something that underpins everything that we do. When you think about the founders and you think about what led them to call all of us into rebellion, that's a visionary seed. One of you out there might have this visionary seed with you. I'm going to just read out our vision reminder before we get going with our first guest. This vision reminder was created by XR UK's Circle Vision Sensing, a circle that I am part of. And I hope it speaks something universal about what our visioning process is in this movement. But I'm also really interested to hear about your visionary processes, how you look off into that bright horizon to see what's coming. I invite you, if you'd like, to just take a moment to pause, to breathe, to close your eyes if that feels good where you are, and just tune into this. Let us take a moment to consider why we are here. Let's recall our love for the whole of humanity in all corners of the world. Let's remember our love for this beautiful planet that feeds, nourishes, and sustains all of life. Let's recollect our sincere desire to protect all of this for now and for generations to come, as we act today, this week, this month, this lifetime. May we find the courage to bring this sense of peace and appreciation to everyone we encounter, to every word we speak, to every action we make. This is now and will remain an emergency together, rooted in love. We are all we need. We are all we need, my friends. Coming back to me, if you did close your eyes, we're going to have a chance to tune into that piece on Reset TV at 9 o'clock tonight. There's a great big global candle meditation planned for 9 p.m. So if that piece and aligning with that is what you're after, then you can carry on tuning into Reset TV, these live feeds that will be going out at 9 o'clock. As I've been traversing the landscapes of all of the visions that are out there, all of the strange and wonderful things that we might be able to bring to you in the coming weeks on these Tuesday evenings where we go a little bit deeper, I found probably the most clear, the most refreshing and least judgmental, most compassionate take on the whole, I'm even scared to say it, I'm going to say it, the 5G thing. And that take was from Jules Evans, who we've got on here tonight. Hey, Jules, do you want to come on board?
Hey, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. Really nice to see you.
Nice to see
So
you.
your piece that I read, it was called Conspirituality, and it was about the relationship between the New Age and conspiracy theories. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Sure. So it was in a week where you had the London Real interview with David Icke, where he came out with various conspiracy theories like COVID was created by the Chinese and spread through 5G. And that video was seen hundreds of thousands of times before it got taken off YouTube. You had a documentary called Out of Shadows, which was released about the Pizzagate conspiracy, which was seen, I think, 2 million times in a week. And you had another conspiracy that the WHO and Bill Gates were only trying to get a vaccine for this virus to reduce the world population. It was all an evil plot. So in a way, that's not surprising. Like, we're in a very uncertain, scary time. Our governments are failing. There's a lot we don't know. And we're all kind of stuck at home on the internet. So it's a perfect breeding ground for conspiracy theories. But I was surprised by how mainstream these conspiracy theories went, and how leaders, spiritual kind of leaders, or people I looked up to in the spiritual community, which is the community I guess I identify with, were sharing these conspiracy theories. And it made me wonder why this overlap between spirituality and conspiracies. And people have written about this and they call it conspirituality. So there's definitely an overlap. And I wondered why that was.
Yeah, I felt like you really started to point towards something that I know that for me, I actually, until I read your article, I just assumed it was the truth. That, like, as we tuned in to our own spirituality, our own connection to the divine, to source, to oneness, whatever you want to call it, that we would be able to rise and overcome. I mean, I stopped short at demonic overlord, but something like that, you know, that like the good tides of the good times were coming. But your article suggested that maybe I was a little bit deluded. Can you tell me a little bit about that and how you think that might affect?
So really, there's one way of thinking about it is that there's such a thing as a positive conspiracy theory. Think of the conspiracy theory as a kind of like an ecstatic or mystical experience. A positive conspiracy theory is everything is connected. The universe is working through me. I am naturally attracting the people I need to work with. And we are going to transform our society into a new golden age of love and justice. So that's a kind of form of apocalyptic or mythical thinking, but you are superpowered. You are going to help bring this phase shift, this paradigm shift for humanity. So that's a kind of positive, ecstatic experience.
Mate, you're basically describing my life, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, and that's like the same with me. It was certainly, you know, a lot of my friends and my family and so on. And that's, you know, that's a kind of, you know, that's an empowered, positive trip. Now, the flip side of that is everything is connected, but this hidden elite, are in charge. And I am at their mercy. So it's a similar kind of thinking, seeing patterns everywhere, but where the first trip is kind of positive, extrovert, the universe is working through me. The second one is kind of paranoid and afraid. And really, these are two similar types of thinking. And what's interesting is, you know, the first type of thinking really drove a kind of universalism. So you see people, you know, these hidden groups like the Freemasons or the Illuminati or H.G. Wells, they were all very into this kind of ecstatic, positive globalism. Let's create one world government. Let's create a new age kind of spirituality. Let's change the world. And the kind of paranoid conspiracies arose from about the 70s or 80s in reaction to that kind of positive globalist conspiracy. So people like InfoWars or David Icke, these are anti-globalist conspiracy theories, but the two are kind of connected. Sarah, I think you've frozen. Hi, Hannah.
Hi there, Jules.
I think Sarah just froze. The hidden cabal of lizards got to her.
Yeah, probably. I'm happy I got to hear you.
Yeah, so I was basically, I mean, what's this got to do? Did you hear what we were talking about?
Yeah.
So what this has to do with XR in a way is that there is a risk when old institutions and old ways of understanding break down, that all kinds of new ideas from the margins come to the center, but that we need to kind of practice discrimination in a way to think, you know, is this theory that I'm reading or that I'm sharing definitely true, or is it harmful? We need to practice what I call kind of mental hygiene, like thinking about whether the stuff we share is from a reliable source, because it's very easy without thinking to share a story at the moment, a conspiracy theory, which could be properly harmful.
Yeah, I do think that this is I dropped off a little bit there just at the moment when you started talking. You said the word conspiracy theory, and I feel like there's something going on in the mainframes, but I did catch in for the end of that. And I think that for rebels, it's super important to remember in this great changing, in all of the chaos that's unfolding, to stay grounded. Jules, I want to say thank you so much for sharing your perspectives. I believe that you have a book coming out soon. I know you've got your old book, The Philosophy of Life, but there's a new one, right?
Yeah, I've got a book just coming out this week. It's called Breaking Open, Finding a Way Through Spiritual Emergency. So it's about the kind of the tools we need in liminal spaces where we might be, dealing with either personal spiritual emergencies or collective spiritual emergencies. So what kind of things can help us find a way through that? So that's called Breaking Open.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Jules. I really appreciate you bringing those perspectives here for us, because it's not easy to talk about the things that the world is telling you not to talk about, right? I know I tried to put a couple of posts up about 5G on my social feeds just to like have a conversation, and it was a little bit like offering people ice lollies made of human poo. And so when I encountered yours that was so like grounded and well researched, I felt relieved, and I'm really grateful for that.
Sure.
And when we think about taboos, yeah, thanks so much. I really like this taboo marking way. I feel like that's kind of my life sometimes, is I just like see a taboo and I'm like, well, what is this about? Maybe it's because I'm an astrologer and that's a very scorpionic thing to do, and that's another taboo. I'm not allowed to talk about astrology on XR things. But one of the taboos, I mean, there's so many taboos we could talk about within this movement. There's things about how power is distributed. There's, we all think we're in a non-hierarchical holocracy, but is that real? Like, we have people who have social currency, social capital, like that exceeds their financial capital, who can use that to be able to make things happen. We have the fact that like, we're just stepping into wholeheartedly the offering of media into a media landscape. And where is the kind of critique around that? Has XR developed its own propaganda wing? Is that what's happening? I hope not. And I hope that me saying that means that I don't get that. I don't think that will happen. We're a non-violent movement. And there's lots of things that have been happening, like lots of questions about biosurveillance and how much do we trust each other, as I mentioned earlier. But the thing I want to focus in on tonight when it comes to money, and I want everybody, I know that the Instagram people joined in a little bit later. So hi, Instagram people. And I want all of the people on all the different social media feeds to really talk to me about your views about money. Not just like, oh my God, we're in such a mess, but what is it for you that makes money such a difficult thing to talk about in relation to the rebellion? I know that like money can be seen, many of us are anti-capitalist, and rightly, but capital itself goes along with that and becomes a dirty thing, and it means that it's something hard for us to talk about. And I worry that we're throwing the baby out with the bathwater. And one of the ways that that's happened is that this thing that like, how do we distribute the funds that are donated to XR? People see what we're doing, they're like, I back you, I want to give you some of my dosh. I got that dosh because I went to work. I can't get involved with what you're doing, but have my dosh, they give it to you and you're like, this is a valuable thing, I will precious, thank you. And then how do we operate with that? What do you think we should do with that? What do you think is the right way to be able to redistribute that money? Do you think that money should go to people? Do you think it should go to projects? Well, if it goes to projects, it's just going to people. Do you think that if volunteers need to claim expenses for their living costs, that should be something that is covered without any check on what their needs are, like what they're actually doing on behalf of the movement? Do you think that's fair? Do you think it's like, I quite like it, it's like a utopian ideal that someone turns up and is like, I rebel, I skint, help me. I'm like, okay, I want to live in a world where we could just go, yeah, sure, bruv, I trust you, have the dosh. And I know also that that's a utopian ideal, and that the way that we build systems in place for accountability is a marker of how well we're able to build the worlds that we want to move into. that question of accountability is something that comes up over and over and over again as this paradigm is shifting. How can we hold ourselves accountable, and how can we hold the whole movement and the movement of movements accountable? We have a guest on tonight, Hannah from XR Germany. Hannah, who's been there right from the beginning of Germany, who has traveled to lots of different activist hubs and communities all around Europe and really encountered some of the different ways that they move through challenges. Hannah, do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, hi Sarah. Yeah, thanks for having me. Yeah, so basically XR with its vision and the non-violence and its go for the matter, the system, basically. That's what got me in December 2018. And since then, I've been really looking into how we could organize differently, and how we could organize in a way that would be different at the root. And yeah, also with that question, we traveled last year in summer, me and Stu Basson, who's also one of the co-founders and another friend of ours. We traveled to different XR communities, and we saw the same problems everywhere. And it was problems about power dynamics. It was problems about conflicts and not being able to shift them. And it was problems about decision making. And it reoccurred. And so it was not what we are against. It was not on the outside. It was on the inside, because we really have, unlearned. We have forgotten how we organize differently, how we organize decentralized. And then at the end of this travel, we came to Tamara. We came to the Defend the Sacred conference in Tamara, which is in Portugal.
Yes, we're going to be hearing from Martin, who's from Tamara. Next week, Martin from Tamara is going to be giving a really deep dive into Tamara's visions for how we can create a more sustainable and just societies and communities. Martin, do you want to just tell us now, welcome, by the way, onto the show. Thank you so much for being here. Martin, I know that you're a great thinker. I'm halfway through your article about the quantum realities of Corona. Thank you for that particular
Another
vision.
conspiracy theory.
Yeah, no, not a conspiracy theory. And I just wonder if you could tell us, just give us a little taste of what we're going to be learning more about next Tuesday.
Yeah, so I'll just say one sentence about Tamara. So hello, everyone. I'm calling in here from southern Portugal. I'm part of a community of 200 people, an international community that is basically trying to model what a post-capitalist regenerative society could look like on a small scale. So we are mainly exploring what is the balance between system change on the outer, but also on the inner. So what are the processes of community building, of trust building, of social transparency, and of healing trauma between people that enable us to make the kind of changes that we want to see on the outer systemically, to make those changes reliable and sustainable. So we will talk about what is the significance of trust building for that system change, and also how can the work in such communities benefit activist movements like that of XR and help us strengthen the vision of a regenerative culture that we want to see in the world right now, and that, I mean, with the oil industry and everything crashing, is so urgent at the moment.
Yeah, the work of regenerative cultures is everything. We've seen how it's really been the regenerative hubs of XR that have been the ones who've been able to support rebels through this first crisis. I mean, it's not the first. The crises have been rolling out all over the world for decades now. It's the first one to hit on a global scale. And we've seen how important regenerative culture is for that. I believe that you have an amazing offer for rebels on this call, right? Can you tell us about that? You have a course coming up.
Right, so we will have an online course starting on the 11th of May and running for 3 weeks, which is really an introduction into the kind of vision for global change that Tamara has been cultivating as a community for 40 years now. We call it the Healing Biotopes Plan. So we explore community building and love and sexuality and healing trauma and also political change in that course. And we are offering a special discount for activists in Extinction Rebellion of 20%. And yeah, it would be great to see many of you in this course. I will post the details of how to access this discount and how to get more information in the comments. Welcome.
Yes, thank you so much. Yeah, we'll be posting those in the comments on the different social feeds. And also, because we're going to be doing a deeper dive with Martin next week, you'll be able to hear a bit more about Tamara's healing biotope and the ways that they've brought about actual sustainable community development and change, which I think that so many of us are just calling out for at the moment. What other thing? Thank you so much, Martin and Hannah, for sharing a little bit about the journey that you've been on in your collaboration with I know that there is a lot more story there, and we just have a few minutes tonight. So I'm just really, really grateful that you were able to come and share some of that vision with rebels who are tuning in. Some of the tuning in questions, I've got some of the questions here that have been being asked in the different places. Somebody, Captain Aceface on Instagram, asks if I'm Greta. No, I'm not. No, not yet, not ever. Alas, I didn't. I wish I'd been that good that early, but I'll get there one day. What else have we got here? We've got a lot of people who are asking questions that to me seem like they want somebody else to do the job for them. We've got people saying, how can you get someone to stop HS2? How can you get somebody else to do this? How can you get somebody else to do that? And I really just once again want to invite you to step into your power, step into your own energy and find ways so that you can be the ones who do this. You are all needed. What else do we have here? A question, why do humans deserve to avoid the inevitable? Really good question, Robert. That's a very provocative question. What makes us special? Actually, that's a taboo, isn't it? We often are led to wondering how we're going to save the earth, what we're going to do about the planet, how to fix the climate and ecological emergency. And as we've seen with the corona, we are just one life form, vulnerable and susceptible to the shifts in nature, along with all of the rest of them. And that's definitely something for us to remember when we tune into what it means to be a rebel. You know, there's these three phrases: humility, frugality, and empathy. And can we have the humility to accept that we are just one being, one life force, one species in amongst all of this mess? Humility is a really important point for our last little segment tonight. Don't get left behind. I don't want any of you to get left behind as this paradigm is shifting. There's so much changing so quickly, and you might find yourself tripping up over and over again on things that for you just felt completely normal and natural in the moment. Maybe it's your humor on one of the informal XR chat threads. Maybe you whapped a meme in there that you thought was jokes, and then all of a sudden you found out that you'd maybe done something that was like not in line with our principles and values, so that we are challenging the toxic systems that discriminate against different kinds of people. Maybe you found that you had to make a decision super quickly and that there was nobody to help you, and if you didn't make that decision, everything was going to just fall apart. And that meant that you didn't really mitigate for your own power, which is another one of our principles and values. If I look on my notes, I believe it's value number 7. You can check it out. I hope you did check those principles and values out. We call them the P's and R's. Hello, watching all these different people. XR will not be able to have peaceful demonstrations once this is over. That's an interesting taboo. How do we reckon with the reality that we are a non-violent movement? That is principle and value number 9, that we are a non-violent movement. How do we deal with ourselves when we start to feel completely all like bunched up with this rage that we feel when we talk about this love and this rage? These are questions that you're asking, I'm asking, we are all asking. And my belief is as we move together and we carry on holding each other, we will be able to find our way through to some good, nourishing, fulfilling, and gracious answers. Next week, as I mentioned, we have Tamara's Martin coming back and having a bit of a deep dive. We also have some news from Advaya Initiative, an amazing eco initiative that takes place in the UK and a few other spots around the world. In a couple of weeks' time, we've got Daniel Pinchbeck coming on and talking about his visionary ideas, his utopia, what he thinks is on its way to come. And really, friends, all I can do is say it's time for us to prepare ourselves. It's time for us to prepare ourselves to be the visionaries that we've been waiting for. I'm going to offer a song now to close us off and wish us all good night and prepare us for the candle meditation that's happening at 9 p.m. Please prepare me to be a sanctuary, pure and holy, wise and true. With thanksgiving, I'll be a living sanctuary for you. May we be sanctuaries for each other, for our visions, and for all of our seeds. This has been Sara Zaltash for XR UK's Vision Sensing Vision Seeds. Thank you very much and have a good evening.